Hello, and welcome to this presentation about natural weight loss, things that you can do in your everyday life that can get incredible results, all naturally or sustainably. Let's get underway. And if you've got questions, pop them in the chat and I'll get round to them at the end. So, I've been in this space for over 25 years helping people lose weight as a healthcare professional. And when people say they want to lose weight, what they're really saying when I sit down with them and have a chat is they want either a flat tummy or they want to get rid of that bloat, which might come on over the day, or they just feel heavy. They want more confidence. It's a really common thread, the confidence for men and women. They don't feel overly confident when they've got weight, particularly when if they're not used to it and they've gained that 5 or 10 that throws them into the next size up. It can be quite distressing. They want to stop emotional eating. They want to feel like they've got some control over their eating and it's not governing all their thoughts when they're awake. What can I eat next? Snacking, emotional eating, all that sort of thing. And definitely, by far, people want to have an eating plan that suits them so they're not obsessing about things all the time, that suits their body and their health. So, sustainable, easy, natural weight loss is possible. But if you're eating on the run, like this person, which is very common where you don't stop to eat because it can be an inconvenience. We've got time pressures, we're busy, we eat in the car. That's really not nourishing your body. That's ticking a box saying you ate, but did you eat sustainable foods that are good for you in providing your body with nutrients and in the right environment? And I'll explain a little bit more why that's really important, particularly if you don't want to count calories, you want to have just a body that takes care of itself. These things do make a big difference. Now, if you haven't met me before or come across my work before, my name is Sam. On the top left, that's me. I've done a lot of work in developing countries for women, and that was a mid centre over in Nepal. That was Patan Hospital, and have very passionate about women and their independence and their health. Those are my 3 children down the bottom left, and I've written now 11 books, all published. A couple of them are bestsellers. I have been asked to go on TV quite a lot over the years, upwards of 40 odd times, discussing hormones or diets, different topics, and I really enjoy the opportunity to break down sometimes complex explanations for people into small, bite-sizable, excuse the pun, but ways that make people get their head around what they can do to impact on their health. And that's really what I love. Public education and TV is one of the ways I've loved over the years, helping people understand their health. As I said, I've written quite a few books. 11 are published, 2 bestsellers, and this one is a great one. It's called Weight, It's Your Hormones, and a very common overlooked problem of weight and why weight won't go. But let's look at some of the traditional ways or the very allopathic ways that weight is dealt with in current society. And I'm based in Australia. At the moment, the process here is if you've got a weight issue and I'd suggest going to a naturopath, nutritionist, personal trainer. But a lot of people find themselves at a doctor's surgery and doctors aren't trained in nutrition, number one, or food. So they'll send them off to a dietitian who's trained in calories, not necessarily nourishment, and they'll get them counting calories, doing this, what we now know is a redundant process that the pyramid's been sacked in the US and needs to follow suit in Australia because this model of doctor to dietitian creates one diabetic every 5 minutes in this country. It's a staggering number. In my mind, it's a real pandemic that's going on beneath our noses. Is what we're missing is how we are advising people to eat. And calorie counting is not the whole story, clearly, based on these results. So 120,000 Australians developed diabetes during 2023. That's a huge amount of people with a life chronic disease that leads to all sorts of things. Diabetes is horrific. Now, dieting and counting calories has a massive failure rate. And that's because it often doesn't address cravings. It doesn't help people if they're stressed and they have that rebound comfort eating problem. It can slow the metabolism down. And emotionally, you end up becoming quite obsessed about food. There's other things, though, I do want to touch on today, and that's injectable drugs. Very common at the moment. Surgical interventions, meal replacement shakes, restrictions or fasting. Intermittent fasting is huge at the moment. Detoxes and even fat freezing. We've got devices that will burn fat so you can, get rid of it. But do we need all that? A lot of these things are very expensive, and majority of them, people will regain the weight that they lose. Let's start with stimulants. Now, stimulants, the precipice behind these is that you push someone's metabolism up, so they should burn more calories. Interesting, a lot of people who get offered these are burnt out. The last thing we should be doing with them is stimulating them even more, which is why I've got Dorothy down in the corner of The Wizard of Oz. It's like giving someone speed. They stop sleeping, they become more burnt out, and certainly weight may go, but in majority it doesn't. Because with the burnout, they'll often have an underactive thyroid, so you end up, just flogging a dead horse basically. Caffeine and guarana and other pre-work products can be similar, so I would suggest a really big caution around stimulating your body to burn more calories. Weight loss injections or GLP-1 agonists, Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy, Saxenda, very popular at the moment, and I think unfortunately so. They're easy to get your hands on them. I speak to people, I've got people who are pregnant, people who just want to do it for 3 months. And I'm like, seriously, do you know the adverse events with these things? Sure, they can work. What they do is they block the GLP-1 receptor site in the gut, or agonize it, we call it. And what that does is it tells the brain that you're full. It can help with the obsession around food, sure. But what they're not telling people, and this was, I did this morning, you can see the date there. This was in June 2026 from the government website in Australia, the TGA, 26 reported deaths with Ozempic. This is only reflective of about 1 to 2% of all cases that have resulted in death, generally because the reporting system is so paper deep that a lot of people don't do it. Similarly, with Mounjaro, 7 deaths so far in Australia since it's been out. I'm sure if people were told up front that you can see there, the pancreatitis that it causes, that they really would think twice about going here. But sure, they're desperate and they've found themselves somehow in that system that promotes surgery and drugs as opposed to natural solutions. Now people are stopping them. What happens when you do stop? Well, unfortunately, a lot of that weight goes back on. Now, bariatric surgery is when we talk about surgery for specifically for weight loss. The most common thing at the moment is a gastric sleeve. What they do there is they slice out 2/3 of your stomach, leaving a tube behind or a sleeve. They throw that bit of the stomach out. The 2/3 gets tossed in the bin and incinerated. They don't put it on ice. If you change your mind, it's gone. Now, this is a major problem because people believe that, I've got less appetite, therefore I eat less. But what often happens is they eat yogurts and things. They don't enjoy food. And their metabolism gets affected because you've just thrown out 2/3 of a very important part of the whole digestive process where we start breaking down proteins and absorbing different nutrients out of the gut wall. Now, I did want to touch on menopause because menopause weight is quite different to any other time in a person's life. And men, guys, you have different hormone issues, and I will show a few demos of that shortly. But in menopause, if you're struggling and weight's gone on, please reach out. It's not going to be the same as when you were 20 or 30 or 40. It's a totally different phenomena, and very common symptom of menopause is weight gain. So why do these things not work long term? It's mainly because the real reasons either aren't diagnosed or the person hasn't got the right support or we haven't addressed what's really been going on. Overeating is a huge problem, and studies show that people who are normal size underestimate how much they eat by 20%. People who are overweight underestimate how much they eat by 30%. Now, this is just a little visual to show you how nuanced eating can be and how easy it is to overeat. I don't know if pizza's the right food to demonstrate this with, but it's easy. It's nice and circular and it makes sense. You can see the one on the left, pizza on a really large plate. Now, that doesn't look filling. Visually and psychologically, we want to eat more. Whereas the one on the right, smaller plate, looks more filling. Now, there's just an insight to psychology and how we can be trapped into overeating. So, one of the easiest things you can do is start eating off smaller plates. You can reduce the utensils, so smaller knives and forks, and this makes a big difference. The second big faux pas I see is that there are a lot of people walking around with metabolic issues. That might be a blood sugar issue, it might be a thyroid issue, it might be a gut metabolism issue or a liver issue, and just focusing on calorie restriction or increasing output won't work. We've got to get the metabolism to a happy place. Blood sugar issues are rampant, and that's because a lot of people are not aware that even healthy foods can swing their blood sugars. Getting that under control, and this here, you can see the red line. This person wasn't unhealthy. Our body likes a certain amount of glucose or blood or sugar in the bloodstream. We call it the blood sugar level. And in Australia, it's between 3.5 and 7. We like it to be steady. If it goes too high, you start making fat. It's called lipogenesis. We switch on the fat making. And if it goes too low, our metabolism starts to slow down, but we crave carbohydrates. So the trick is to keep it in the middle. Now, that person in the red, you can see they're swinging all over the place. But this is somebody who was eating berries and fruit for breakfast, juice, coffee, came into work, and then about an hour and a half later, when all that sugar that was dumped into the bloodstream had been shuttled into the cells by insulin, they ended up with a rebound drop. And that happens around 9:30 for a lot of people. So they get up, have another coffee, might have an apple, up goes the blood sugar again. Switching on fat making again, insulin does its job, poof, another drop, another rebound. And by lunchtime, they're craving things like sushi, pasta, rice dishes, focaccias, anything that's high carb, and the swing continues. So it doesn't necessarily appear unhealthy on the outside, but on the inside, the blood sugar swings are diabolical. This I see a lot. Either people aren't exercising at all or they're doing the wrong type of exercise. It's really important, particularly through menopause, that you don't drag tyres. It's particularly important when you've had a baby that you don't drag tyres. Some activities, cardio can work really well for some, high intensity activities can work better for others. Getting the exercise right is a game changer. I alluded to this before with the metabolic pathways. We also have what we call detox pathways. And if your detoxification pathways are underactive, you might struggle to lose weight. If your liver's not breaking things down, you'll get a backlog. If your and it also affects your blood sugars. If your lymphatics are blocked, you won't lose weight because once we release the fat out of the adipose tissue, it travels via the lymphatics back into the circulatory system where we then have to excrete it. If your lymphatics are blocked, you're not going to have that process working very well. Kidneys, skin, lungs, and your gut are all very important detox pathways. This image was taken a few weeks ago when I was at a detox retreat in Thailand. And I try and go every year for 7 days where I make sure all my detox pathways are flushed. Because even just everyday living takes a massive toll. It's got to remove toxins from the air, from water, from food, from vapors, from carpet, things we're in contact with our skin. It's almost unavoidable to have pure, wonderfully performing detox pathways all the time without going to these extra efforts. And then the right eating style for you. Now, I did a post on Facebook. It's had so many comments about, what is successful for people. What have people found has worked for them? There's so many different eating styles. Intermittent fasting suits some people, but it won't for others. Carnivore diet suits people, but if you're vegetarian, well, that's not going to work. Keto can work, but some people have found they put on weight. Zone is probably my preferred and the blood group diet, which, looks to me like a Mediterranean style eating plan. Hormone imbalances. If these aren't addressed, and even if you slice two-thirds of your stomach out or go on a GLP-1, if this isn't addressed, this is still going to govern your body. I have seen in the last 3 or 5 years more cortisol issues than I've ever seen in my whole 30 plus years of being in health. Cortisol is just one of our stress hormones. It's released by the adrenal glands when we're stressed or when our body's under attack with infection. It also naturally goes up in the morning, part of our 24-hour body clock. But you can see on the person here, it's way too high. It should be about 24. So when it's really high, you can't lose weight. There's no point even trying. I like testing people because it takes out the guesswork. And what it also does is it gives people, one, a point of reference, but it also validates that they're not going crazy, that there's been a reason for why they haven't lost weight. This person, and what I do find, so now I do cortisol levels over the day at 4 different points. So on waking, midday, afternoon, and before they go to bed. And what I'm finding, there's a massive disconnect between how people feel and what they think is happening in their body. In fact, this person was like, before I open up the results, I said, how do you feel? Do you feel like stressed or that cortisol could be an issue? Oh, no, 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 I'm pretty cool and calm. Like, okay. And these are the results. It's nothing cool and calm when your cortisol's like that, and you will not lose weight. In fact, you will actively be making weight when your cortisol's this high. Now, you can see on this person here, this is a female one, high cortisol again, so they're not going to lose weight. But in this person as well, they also had high estrogen. Estrogen impedes weight loss, and that's why girls with endometriosis and PCO will often have a weight problem, and they typically will have high testosterone as well. So PCOS, high testosterone, endometriosis, high estrogen, apart from inflaming the reproductive tissues, it also will stop weight loss. So this is, bread and butter for me in terms of how I help people. If you're interested, please put in the comments or reach out on an email and I'll be able to send you to my website where you can order these. Absolute game changer knowing this information about yourself. See here another person with very high estrogen. They can't lose weight. They won't lose weight while their estrogen's high. You just can't. And interesting, very low testosterone. Quite burnt out, this person. But I see it in men as well. So men produce hormones like girls, like women, similar hormones, in fact. So men, their primary hormone should be testosterone, and estrogen, they should produce less of it. This young person, actually, they were 35. He came and saw me, depressed, overweight, fatty liver, couldn't lose weight, had a dietitian for a couple of years. They couldn't get his blood sugars under control, all sorts of horrendous things. He was so depressed. It was awful, wasn't socializing, and felt like he'd come to the end of the road. Anyway, his mum said, go and see Sam. So he did. We did his saliva test. That's the one up the top. Really low testosterone. That's why he was depressed. But really importantly, very high estrogen. That was his weight issue. And also high estrogen in men makes them depressed and overthink. And it's an awful cycle for them. We worked together for 3 months. Look at the results after 3 months. His testosterone was up. His estrogen was down. We'd reversed his fatty liver in that short time. And his depression had lifted. He started walking. He felt like socializing. This 35-year-old man got his life back in 3 months. And it didn't take any drugs. We did that naturally. So people who lose weight in the long term, they invest with full belief that they're going to be successful. Now, you might have already tried 5, 6, 10 things over your lifespan and think, oh, yeah, another fad. You might get a little bit excited. But I know unless you dive all in and believe with your heart that this is the time it's going to work and be successful, you may as well not even embark on it. I think getting a baseline can be really important. I showed you before just some of those hormone tests. I do hair testing as well. Getting a review from someone like myself with your nutrition or even just your habits. I I am a firm believer in if you invest in yourself with a professional, you're more invested in the whole outcome and the results will be better. So you've got to want that change, the mental state. I can't stress it enough. You need to have momentum and support around you. And please reach out because when you've got a good practitioner, that's our job. We support you when you feel like you're coming off the wagon. I have got a natural weight loss program and I'll take you through it now. It's been highly successful. People have been using this program for over 10 years and it is just amazing how it works. It is designed for people to fall back in love with food and themselves. So it's got 8 weeks of eating plans. It's got the hormone secrets. I was interviewed the other day on a podcast in America and I was telling them about the Happy Female formula and they were going, oh my God, this is more than just hormone secrets. This is a whole reset program. And you get a call with me, 30 minutes, where we talk about what you've tried, what supplements you might be taking, what I think is the smartest and most efficient way for you forward. So the first part of it, the eating plans, you get 8 weeks of recipes and the plans. It takes the thinking out of it. Now, people who just use some of these recipes still get results. It's there as to give you more confidence around food. They're not convoluted recipes. They're designed for really busy people, people who've got kids, might be living on their own, so you can have leftovers. Really simple, clean eating, wonderful, great results from those. The second part, as I said, is the Happy Female formula and the hormone secrets, 5 modules. And I talk about stress, how to eat, read labels, more about insulin, how it impacts on your body and how to break that cycle, more about menopause, more about mandropause or andropause. And as the lady said the other day, she goes, oh my God, that's a reset program. And it certainly is. So it's online, it's easy to understand. You don't have to do it all, but it's there if you want to learn more about your body and how to master your internal physiology and mindset. Now, the third component, I think this is the invaluable one. You get a call with me, 30 minutes, the value is $250. We discuss where you're at. If you've got questions specifically, it's an actual consultation. A lot of the time in forums and things, I've got to be mindful. I can't give specifics, but obviously in a consultation, I can. So the summary, you get the eating plans, you get the Happy Female formula and a strategy call with me. That's normally 944. But if you act on this today, on this webinar special, I'll honor it at 197. Now, what I'm going to do is just put this in the chat and I want you to double click on that for me so it opens up in your browser. That's it. Yeah, just double click so you've got it there. So if you go to my website, sambopatrick.com/product/natural-weight, that's where you'll find the special. So you get the consultation, which is alone is worth $250. So you're already saving money. Plus you get the eating plans and the other resources. Now I'll go through some of these questions that are coming through. Yes, good. Amy's just asked, yeah, this is Australian dollars, not US dollars. You can start whenever you like. Um, some people like starting on a Monday. It just seems to be when diets and things and new plans are all started. A lot of people don't start on a Thursday or a Friday for some reason. But once you purchase this, you will be sent an email that'll ask, it'll get you to book in for the consultation with me. And it's usually at that time that I'll talk to you and say, are you ready to go? Because I don't want to send you the startup unless you're psychologically confident that you're going to nail it. Yes, this is fine for guys as well. Even though the Happy Female formula is designed more for women, the modules on stress are brilliant. The consultation with me, is fantastic. But even the eating plans are brilliant. So men can definitely benefit from it. I generally find, though, if the woman is on board, that the guys will follow what the girls do. So, girls, this is one of those things where if you look after yourself, you will inadvertently influence your partner just by you starting to eat better, look after yourself. They get very inquisitive men when they see that we're starting to get improvement. They applaud us from the sideline. They really do. Alrighty. Any other questions, please just send them through on email. Good. I've just seen that was just someone purchasing. Great. Jump on this, buy this now. It might not stay at this price for long because my books are getting really busy, and at the moment I can, give it at this price, 30-minute consultation with me. But it's certainly not going to be like that for long. So take advantage of this, get those things. There's another sale coming through, and thank you so much for being on, and I hope you got a lot out of it. Thank you.